Hey, this is Eva with Teens in the Driver's Seat Teen Advisory Board. Thanks for attending today's session. Here are some tips to help make this session a great experience. We are committed to saving lives and reducing crashes on our roads and request each participant commit to connecting to our event from a safe location. Please do not connect while driving or operating any form of machinery. First, notice the panel to the right with several tabs. Here is where you can chat, ask questions, retrieve handouts, and see answered polls. The chat is public and you are encouraged to say hello and answer any prompts that appear there. If you have questions, post those in the Q&A window. Any handouts can be downloaded from that tab, and finally, poll questions will appear directly on your screen. The presenter invites questions. Type those into the Q&A window anytime. The prize drawing for a $50 gift card will be held at the end of the session. Make sure you stay on for that. Finally, at the conclusion of the webinar, please complete a very quick survey for this session, which will help the presenter and us improve in the future. Enjoy the session.
Hello and welcome. My name is Grace Holt and I'm one of the TDS Teen Advisory Board's member with the Teens in the Driver's Seat program. Our presenter today will be sharing the power of the youth presentation from Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Miss Emma Dugas is the program specialist with the North Texas affiliate at Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Before joining MADD, Emma brings over 20 years experience with working with nonprofits and educating children and parents. Today, she strengthens parent-child relationships and community health education through prevention strategies focusing on reducing drunk driving and drug driving, as well as underage drinking, along with the responsibilities as prevention professional. Emma is an active member of the National Council on Family Relations, North Texas Prevention Association, Dallas County DWI Task Force, and many of the DFH coalitions to combat impaired driving. Her passions are youth and parent prevention programs, family relations, special education, and spending time with her husband and two amazing boys.
Welcome. My name is Emma Dugas. I'm the program specialist with Mothers Against Drunk Driving here in North Texas. Today I'm going to be presenting MAD's Power of Youth program. This program equips teens to take a stand against underage drinking and not to get into an impaired driver's car. So let's get started. So I'd like to share MAD's mission with you to create a world with no more victims. MAD has 4 mission areas. Of course, to end drunk driving, help fight against drug driving, support the victims of this violent crime, and to prevent underage drinking. So you might be thinking to yourself, why is MAD concerned about underage drinking? So unfortunately, teen alcohol use kills over 4,300 teens each year. And so MAD would like to provide you with all the tools that you need to be prepared for those unsafe situations. We are grateful for Amica Insurance. They are our national presenting sponsor for Power of Youth. Without them, we would not have this program. So as we go through this presentation, I'd like for you to ask yourself these 3 questions. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? What does that look like? How could getting involved with alcohol and other drugs impact where you want to be? And then what situations might come up or have already come up that would get in your way to reaching that goal in 10 years? So keep all of those questions in your mind as we go through these next few questions in the presentation. So I'm going to be asking you 4 multiple choice questions. So do your best to answer the questions and we'll get through them. So here's the first question. What year was the drinking age set at 21? 1956, 1929, 1984, or 1978? If you guess C, you are correct. So on July 17, 1984, President Reagan signed into law the Uniform Drinking Age Act. So what this did, it mandated all 50 states to adopt 21 as the legal drinking age, but within 5 years. So about 1988, 89, all states had set 21 to the minimum drinking age. So you might think to yourself, why 21? You know, it used to be 18. And so, but if you really think about it, 1988, that's really not that long ago. So like my parents and my parents' parents, they grew up where it was just normal to drink at a young age. And so just to kind of give you a reality of what they grew up seeing every day, or here are some ads that they saw. Now, take a look at these. You would never see anything like this nowadays. A doctor endorsing a cigarette, or giving a baby a sip of beer, or a pregnant woman smoking. It's because now we know the data, the information, the research on why it's important not to drink alcohol until after 21. And we're going to dive more into that. So we changed the law, and so now we need to enforce it. So here are some local penalties. So MIP stands for minor in possession. So that's any minor that attempts to purchase or possess or consume alcohol or misrepresent their age to buy alcohol. And so as you can see, for your first offense, you get a fine up to $500. Community service, 8 to 12 hours. Get your license suspended for 30 days. Mandatory education. And then by your third offense, in some cases, you can go to jail. And so as you can see, by each offense you make, the consequences become greater. And so it's just not worth it. But for instance, I did want to let you know, for community service, MAD does help with that. So the judge would sentence the minor to complete a certain amount of hours for community service, and they would come to our office and we would assign them tasks to complete to go towards those hours. We also help with education. We provide an MIP class, minor in possession, and so the judge will order them to attend that class so they can learn about those dangers and consequences of drinking and driving, and hear victim stories as well. We also have an adult class too, and that's called VIP, and that's called Victim Impact Panel. So here's our next question. Around what age does the brain finish developing? Late teens, mid-20s, 35-ish, or early 40s? If you pick B, you are correct. So yes, the brain does not finish developing until your mid-20s. Now, everybody develops different, but as you can see in this chart, there's a lot of development going on between the 5-year-old brain all the way up to the 20-year-old brain. And so, for instance, your brain starts developing from the back to the front. And so that last part to finish developing is right up here at the top, and that's called your prefrontal cortex. And if you see that little white box, that is where your executive functions are located. Now you might think to yourself, what is executive functions? That is your decision-making, your planning, your judgment, self-control. It's your brain taking old information and new information and executing the task. So we have learned through many studies and research that when you ingest alcohol and drugs, it has long-lasting negative effects on those executive functions. And here, this kind of proves that study that you could see on the left, a 15-year-old male non-drinker, and on the right, a 15-year-old male heavy drinker. And so as you can see, the non-drinker, there's a lot of activity going on within their brain. When they were taking these pictures, they were asked to complete certain tasks, and so which engaged those executive functions. And as you can see on the heavy drinker, there's hardly any activity going on. And for instance, you see the arrow, that's where your executive functions are located. There's no activity going on there. And that is him alcohol-free for 2 weeks. So it takes a long time for your brain to recover that damage that the alcohol and other drugs do. So I want you to remember that image you had in your mind about where you want to see yourself in 10 years. By ingesting alcohol and doing drugs, that is going to hinder that image and prevent you from accomplishing those goals. So I did want to touch on marijuana. So you might hear this myth that it helps focus you. You study better when you're high, you feel more focused, but that is not true. THC, which is the addictive chemical within marijuana, it affects that part of the brain called hippocampus, which is necessary for learning. And so, for instance, with marijuana, those effects last long after that high is gone. So marijuana affects those learning and memory functions, and it can impair you up to 3 weeks after smoking marijuana. So think how dangerous that is when you're driving or you're trying to accomplish an assignment for school. It affects those students and have poor academic performance. And so again, it would prevent you from accomplishing that goal within the next 10 years. Here's our third question. So which drug is the most addictive? Alcohol, marijuana, opiates, which is pain medication, or are they all equal? If you pick D, you are correct. So they are all equal. A lot of people don't think alcohol is a drug, but it is. And it's the number one killer for teens when it comes to alcohol. And so legal or illegal, it is still essentially when you abuse that substance, that it can actually essentially rewire your brain for addiction. Like for instance, in this study, if you start drinking, say as young as 13, you are at greater risk, over 40%, of having an alcohol disorder later on in life. So if you have already tried alcohol or you do drink alcohol, choose to quit now while your brain is still growing and it can repair that damage so you can accomplish your goals for the future. So here's another myth you might hear about marijuana. It's safer than alcohol. Marijuana is safe than other drugs like alcohol because it's not addictive. Well, that is not true. Just like alcohol, it is addictive. In fact, 1 in 6 people who start using in their teens do become addicted. And so we've learned from a past study that over 4 million people were diagnosed with a substance use disorder specifically to marijuana. So what if you're not the problem? That you're making those positive, good choices, but you have a friend that you might think have a problem with alcohol or using drugs. This is what you can do. So definitely talk to them. Let them know how you feel and that you're concerned and you want to help. And talk to a trusted adult for advice. That can be either your parent, another trusted adult within the family or a friend, or also your school counselor. They are there to help as well. You can also share local resources and offer the national hotline 800-662-HELP. Or you can go to that trusted adult to help you find local resources. And your school counselor has that information. There's a lot of free prevention and treatment centers out there that can help. And then last, invite them to do those fun drug-free activities, hanging out, doing stuff that you're passionate about, and involve them in that and just know that you're there for them. All right, so here's our last question. So what percentage of young people aged 12 to 20 binge drink? So what is binge drinking? For a female, that's 4 drinks every 2 hours. And for a male, that's 5 drinks for every 2 hours. So do you think it's 12%, 25%, 50%, or 75%? If you pick A, you are correct. So yes, teens like yourself were surveyed, and so the majority of teens are not drinking. So if you hear that phrase, "Oh, everybody drinks," then that's not the case. There's been research that shows that not all teens are drinking alcohol. But I want you to think to yourself, when you're in that situation, if you're at a party, what are some phrases that you could say that could help you to tell your friends, "No, I do not want to drink alcohol"? So I've had some teens simply say, "No, no, thank you," or "I got to get up early in the morning. I don't like the way it makes me feel. I have plans tomorrow." Just a phrase that fits your situation that can let them know that you do not want to drink alcohol. So have those phrases ready so that way you are prepared. So if you're at a party where there's drugs and alcohol and you see signs of alcohol poisoning, this is what to look for. So if you see vomiting, shortness of breath, pale, cold, clammy skin, or they're passing out, this is definitely a situation that they cannot sleep off. They need emergency care. So definitely call 911 or a trusted adult to get help. And while you're waiting for that help to come, this is what you can do. Tilt them back on their side, and you can use their leg to balance them. You bring them forward and take their hand and put it on the side. And then you take their other hand and you tilt it underneath their face so that way it tilts their head up. And then make sure that they stay on their side. Because if they're on their back, at that point they have lost their gag reflex function. And so if they were to vomit, they could choke on that. So that's why you want them on their side. And so that way, if they vomit, it goes out on the side and they are not in it, and they won't be able to choke on it. So taking away the keys doesn't always take away the risk. So when you think about alcohol, normally you would think about alcohol and driving. And that is a valid concern. But as you can see, for underage drinking related deaths, only 32% of that involves a car crash. So that other 68% are underage drinking related deaths that do not involve a car. And so I'll break it down for you. So 30% of that is homicides, 14% that's suicides, and 9% that's other poisonings, alcohol poisoning, and then drownings, fires, and falls make up the rest. So let's talk about this for a little bit. Why do you think a teenager would drink alcohol or abuse drugs? Just kind of think of some scenarios in your mind. So I've had some teens say, "Oh, because they're having trouble at home, or they're stressed out about school, or something's going on with their friends, and or they're just peer pressure." So for instance, I want to give you an example. Say your boyfriend breaks up with you and then you get in a fight with your best friend in the same day. That's a hard day. But some teens revert to drugs and alcohol to cope with that negative situation. So this is when I encourage you, find those drug-free positive activities to help you get through those bad days. For instance, I've had some teens tell me they like to work out. go for a walk, listen to music, talk to a friend. So really search for those passions, search for those activities, and also surround yourself around people who support you, who bring out the best in you. Because if you have friends that are bringing out the worst in you, then I would definitely reevaluate that friendship and know when to cut ties. Because remember, we talked about how you have goals. You have that image that you see yourself in 10 years, and you want to surround yourself with people who support those passions and support you in those goals. All right, here's our last myth. I drive better high. I'm a better driver when I'm high. It just helps me relax. That is not true. Driving is a divided attention task. Some of you have your driver's license and you had to complete a lot of education and like driving school to get your license. So you know that it takes a lot to stay focused and to follow all the traffic laws. When you ingest marijuana, that THC chemical mutes those senses that needed to drive safely. So you have slower reactions, you have lane weaving, decreased coordination, and also difficulty reacting to signals and sounds on the road. All right, so here are just a few tips to keep in mind to help you stay on that path for good choices. Make that commitment today to be alcohol free until 21. We know the reasons why we want to keep our brain healthy and to finish developing so you can meet those goals. Find others who will share in your commitment. Watch out for pressures, recognize potential barriers. Talk to a parent or trusted adult and make a plan. When I say that, for instance, I'm going to give you an example. If you're at a party and your best friend is your ride and you see them drinking alcohol or doing drugs, how would you handle that? Have a plan in place. You can get an Uber, a Lyft, or call a parent or a trusted adult, not only to get you home safe, but to get your friend home safe as well, because we don't want them getting behind the wheel. Evaluate your friends in life and identify barriers to your success and remove those people or situations that are not healthy. I'd like to dedicate this presentation to my teen influencer, Lizeth. She is the little girl in this photo, and now she's a teenager. She had lost her big sister, Erica, and her brother-in-law, German. They had only been married for a couple of months, and they decided they wanted to go to the movies one night. And as they were driving, they were hit by an impaired driver, and they were killed in that crash. And she likes to share her story just so other teens do not make that decision that her offender did. And just to let you know, her offender was only 19 years old, and he was sentenced to 99 years in prison, which, ended his life as well, because now he's in prison and he will never get to see his goals be completed. So I dedicate this presentation to them and hope that we make those good choices so we can achieve our goals. All right, so I have a pocket guide for you. You can download it at mad.org, Power of Youth, and it's free. I can also make arrangements to give you a hard copy if you're interested. So please read it, share it. It has a lot of great information in there. You could also join or start a Walk Like Mad team to keep this organization going so we can have a world with no more victims. Or you can become a teen influencer. If you're interested, feel free to reach out and be that leader for your peers to make good choices. Thank you so much for your time and attention. I appreciate it. And if I can be of any assistance or if you have any questions, just let me know. Have a great day.
This is Joanne Maria Melendres with the TDS Teen Advisory Board. A quick thank you to our presenters and to you for attending this session. Congratulations to the prize winner! You will receive your gift card in the email used to register for this summit. And don't forget to take the survey! And have a great rest of your day.